The edge of the abyss, a new phase of conflict. Military aircraft flying in dense swarms, terrifying ballistic missiles tearing through the sky, massive military bases pounded into rubble, and strategic global straits hanging by a threat from total closure. It is a bloody night by all measures, a terrifying new phase of direct conflict between the United States of America and the Islamic Republic of Iran. But what makes this time different and truly horrifying is how much the circle has widened. Every red line has been crossed. The target bank is no longer confined. It has expanded, setting the skies of Jordan, Kuwait, and Iraq ablaze, and perhaps very soon, Israel. Ladies and gentlemen, what has transpired over the past few hours surpasses all expectations and analyses. US President Donald Trump has issued fiery statements, threatening retaliation 20 times stronger if a single bullet is fired. Tehran has responded by throwing the gates of hell wide open, rejecting any hegemony from America or NATO. The burning question terrifying the world right now is this: are we witnessing the opening moments of the great regional war that experts have long warned about? The details I am about to reveal, gathered from burning front lines and classified security war rooms, will leave you stunned. Shattered red lines, fire in the Jordanian sky. Let us begin with the biggest and most shocking event, one that has left Arab and Western capitals holding their breath in sheer terror. What exactly happened in the skies of the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan? Iranian ballistic missiles, yes, Iranian, violently breached the airspace, lighting up the dead of night. Did you ever imagine that Jordanian airspace would become an open theater for a firefight between Tehran and Washington? The Jordanian government officially announced that these missiles were launched from Iran, dragging Jordan directly into the escalation zone. But the critical question here is, were these giant missiles aimed deep into Israeli territory and merely intercepted over Jordan, or were they targeting military bases within Jordanian territory itself? The answer didn't take long, and it arrived like a seismic shock straight from the heart of Tehran. Iran Stage 2, the Al-Azraq strike. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps' IRGC issued a military communique taking full responsibility for executing the second phase of bombardment and retaliation for American strikes. The target? Washington's Regional Command and Control Center, specifically the Al-Azraq Air Base in Jordan. Imagine the scene: 10 devastating ballistic missiles, followed by swarms of the latest state-of-the-art suicide drones that only recently entered service, swarming the base in broad daylight at exactly 2:30 p.m. Despite the Jordanian military's rushed statements claiming their air defense systems intercepted 8 of these missiles, field reports and leaked video footage circulating online tell a completely different story. Massive destruction has crippled American bases and facilities on Jordanian soil. The U.S. embassy there was thrown into a panic, urgently ordering its citizens to take cover and secure bunkers immediately. Tehran didn't stop there. Its missiles and drones also struck locations in Kuwait alongside targets linked to the United States and separatist Iranian opposition groups in the Kurdistan region of Iraq. Tehran's message is bloody and unmistakable. Any point on Earth hosting American interests or forces is a legitimate military target for us, and there are no red lines anymore. America's ruthless retaliation and the nuclear near-miss. On the flip side, did you really think America would just stand by with its arms crossed taking these hits? Impossible. After Washington spent hours telegraphing that it had paused its campaigns, it resumed them with unparalleled ruthless ferocity. Intense and massive U.S. airstrikes pounded the outskirts of the Iranian cities of Bushehr and Bandar Abbas. But ladies and gentlemen, the real catastrophe, the one that nearly ended life in the Gulf as we knew it, was an American projectile landing dangerously close to the Bushehr Nuclear Power Plant. For God's sake, imagine this horrifying scenario with me. What if that projectile had missed its target by just a few meters and struck inside the nuclear reactor? We wouldn't be sitting here talking about a conventional war. We'd be talking about a new Chernobyl. We'd be facing a devastating environmental and nuclear disaster whose radioactive clouds would suffocate the entire Gulf region. Nations as close as Qatar would have been right in the eye of the storm. The seawater that Gulf states desperately rely on for desalination would have been poisoned and contaminated for decades to come. It is quite literally playing with fire on the edge of the abyss. The Americans didn't stop there. The fierce bombardment renewed at exactly 10 p.m. Iran's Fars news agency confirmed the deafening roar of a series of terrifying explosions shaking Bushehr and Bandar Abbas, including 6 massive blasts in Bushehr alone. The U.S. also deliberately and methodically targeted Iranian infrastructure, crippling strategic railway and bridge networks that connect Iran's regions and are used to transport goods towards China and Russia. America wants to choke the Iranian economy and entirely sever its lifeline lifelines before destroying its military machine. The Strait of Hormuz, a global chokehold. Now let's move to the arena that makes the whole world tremble, the Strait of Hormuz, the global energy artery where a fifth of the world's oil flows. The IRGC Navy released a highly alarming statement claiming that during the period of the previous Memorandum of Understanding, they had gradually opened the strait to increase transit capacity to 50%. But pay close attention to the conditions. Transit is strictly permitted only for vessels that adhere to Iranian security directives and obtain official permits from the Revolutionary Guard. The earth-shattering warning at the end of the statement was a direct message to the U.S. military. Any American adventurism or interference in navigating these waters will not only be met with a crushing response, but will completely derail the reopening process and shutter the strait entirely. Yes, Tehran is waving its ultimate terror card, closing the Strait of Hormuz and putting the economies of every reliant nation in mortal danger. Economic warfare and premeditated plans. In the midst of this panic over President Trump imposing a suffocating naval blockade, Iran took an insane preemptive economic leap. Do you know what they did last night? Maritime tracking data confirms that Iran loaded and smuggled roughly 10 million barrels of crude oil out of the Gulf in a single massive push. It's an astronomical figure that boggles the mind, especially considering Tehran hasn't managed to export more than 2 million barrels a day in recent weeks. It is a grinding economic war where Tehran is racing against time to secure its assets before the gates of the Gulf close forever. But is all this just a spontaneous reaction? The Iranians are reading the board very differently and chillingly. They argue that this entire escalation is a premeditated plan orchestrated by the United States for over a year. How? The evidence they claim speaks for itself. Netanyahu's preemptive visit to the White House to meet with Trump, provocative U.S. military maneuvers in the Strait of Hormuz to militarize the southern coast, Trump's sudden announcement terminating the Memorandum of Understanding with Iran, coupled with his inflammatory vow to retaliate to any single Iranian bullet with an attack 20 times greater. The eye of the storm, what's happening now? And what is happening in the region's skies right this very moment? Listen to this critical piece of intelligence picked up by open-source intelligence units and flight radars. An abnormal and ominous movement of 7 giant U.S. K-135 aircraft has been tracked flying in continuous circular holding patterns close to Israeli airspace. These are not attack aircraft. They do not carry bombs. They are much more dangerous than that. These are aerial refueling tankers, the absolute backbone of any all-out war. A single one of these planes carries 90 tons of fuel, designed to keep reconnaissance and strike fighters in the air for days on end. This state of maximal aerial alert means one thing and one thing only. America is mobilizing its most massive machine for a sprawling, continuous aerial campaign that could last for weeks.